Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. My name is Ross Benjamin. It's Tuesday, January the 9th. I'm back for the second time today. If you didn't catch our earlier show, it's up on our channel right now in the archived version. Is myself, Sean Higgs, and Jesse Schule. We have three college basketball free winners for you today, so make sure to check that video out. But like every Tuesday afternoon, I'm joined by Mr. Wise Guy himself, Mr. Paul Bovi. Paul, how are you? And I mean that in a respectful manner, folks. It's not because he's a smart aleck. It's because he's a wise guy, sports bettor in every true sense of the word. Paul, how are you?
Doing well, Ross. Last night we wrapped up the college football season with a winner. It was a little nerve-wracking. We had the under in the first half. Didn't look good. The live line went up to as high as 36 or 37, but they slowed down. Game went under, as did the first half, scored 27. So we wrapped up a pretty good college football season. A little bit disappointed in the bowl season. Wasn't my best. But we're looking forward to the NFL playoffs here, and I'm sure we're going to make some money.
I'm sure we are as well. And today we're going to be discussing the NFL playoff games between the Rams and the Lions and the Cowboys and the Packers. And both of those games go on Sunday. But before we get to that, just a friendly reminder, folks, we have a NFL postseason special up right now, playoff special, whatever you want to deem it as. $199 will get you any handicappers selections during the NFL postseason right through the Super Bowl. If you want to grab one guy, if you want to grab a couple, just $199. And that comes with our personal guarantee, folks, that if we don't win and don't make you a profit during the postseason, we will credit your account back the exact amount of the money you spent on that specific package. So again, $199 NFL playoff special, and it goes right through the Super Bowl. So a lot of great handicappers, including myself and Paul over at gamblersworld.net, and take advantage of that offer. All right, Paul, the postseason is upon us. It's a fun time of year for us. College football behind us, and now we could focus 6 games this coming between Saturday and Monday. I wanted to say this weekend, but they added the Monday night game. I'm not crazy about a Monday night playoff game, but in any event, doesn't matter what I think. Paul, we're going to be talking Packers and Cowboys. And it seems like back in the day, these teams made an annual trek to play in Dallas, much to the Packers. I used to hear all the local Packers fans here always cry, we're always having to go to Dallas. They never come to Lambeau, and especially during the postseason. And my reply to them was, well, you need to have a better record than that. And that's the case again this time around. But it's a whole different scenario, a whole different cast of characters. Dallas right now, a 7.5-point favorite in this contest with a total of 50.5. What do you got for us, Paul?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying I just think it's too much. First of all, let's throw out that Washington game. I actually played Dallas's team totals over quarter, half game. They all hit. Washington didn't play anybody. They've had a porous defense the entire year. But let's do a look back on Dallas. Buffalo shredded them for almost 300 yards on the ground. I think Josh Allen threw all of 15 passes the entire game. Tua had his best performance in terms of passing yards over the last 7 weeks against the Cowboys, 293. Miami comes back, wins the game by 2 with a late drive. And even Detroit, Jared Goff went for 271. Lions were able to run the ball. Dallas gets lucky, wins the game by a point. They have not been good defensively this year. Now, neither has Green Bay. Green Bay started off the year. They were very, and I use the word porous against the run. But something happened over the last couple weeks. First of all, Jordan Love, over the last 8 weeks, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception. The guy is on fire, and his trajectory is clearly up. Nobody is missing Aaron Rodgers right now. Defensively, they have gotten healthy, and that's what counts. Jair Alexander, he missed 9 games back in the lineup. Quay Walker, linebacker, he missed 3 games back in the lineup. Devondre Campbell missed 6 games. He's got 75 tackles in 11 games. He's back in the lineup. By the way, Savage also back in the lineup. He missed, I believe, 6 games. The only guy they lost is Rudy Ford. It was a loss, but still, they get a lot more back than Rudy Ford brings in terms of productivity on defense. So I think Green Bay is getting the job done. And you look, last week, they had to win the game. They shut Justin Fields down, 11-16 for a $148. He ran 8 times for 27 yards. That was his lowest output since week 4 against the Broncos, when he ran 4 times for 24 yards. So I just think they're getting it done at the right time. This is an inflated number. It really is. And I could see Green Bay definitely putting up some points here, probably in the area 23, 24 points here. I don't think Dallas has a free roll on offense, and I think they get the cover.
All right. So Paul Bowie, he likes the Green Bay Packers plus the 7.5 at Dallas. And I'll let you respond to this, Paul, but a couple concerns I would have when listening to your analysis, which is a good one. You make a very compelling case. Are you concerned at all with the experience factor in this game? Look, I mean, between Green Bay's quarterback, Jordan Love, who you eloquently spoke about and pointed out that he's been on an absolute roll down the final stretch of the regular season, and the statistics bear that out. But it's going to be his first playoff start, and on the road to boot. On the other hand, this is a Dallas team who's been there and done that, not always successfully. As a matter of fact, they've been unsuccessful in their postseason plights. And Dak Prescott, a lot of question marks go with accordance to him in terms of his lack of playoff success. But still, the matter of fact is that Dallas right now, I think why this number is inflated. And I know they had a close call against Detroit in their last outing at home, but this is a team that's gone 8-0 at home this year, and really, other than that particular matchup, really has dominated the competition at home to the point where they've outscored them by, 23.5 points per game. Outgained them by 120 yards per game. This is a Green Bay team, 4-5 on the road. They won their last 2 on the road. But bottom line is, when you look at Green Bay's road schedule, they only played 2 teams that finished with a winning record. Now, they did go 1-1 in those games, and they also went 4-2 overall this year when facing teams that finished with a winning record as well. You compare that to Dallas. Dallas has faced 8 teams this year with a winning record, a very average 4-4 record in those games. The couple games that you mentioned were on the road. That was the game they got shredded against Buffalo and the 2-point loss against Miami. But anyway, and not to say I disagree with you, and it's still early in a week for me to commit to a pick on this game. But any concerns in anything that I've just mentioned, or retort to that?
I do, and I will. First of all,
right.
let's look at the schedule. Who did they beat at home? I know they beat the Giants first game of the season, or I don't know if that one was. I think that was in
that
the
was on the road.
That was on the road, but they beat them later on in the season. Okay. They also beat the Jets. They beat New England. They beat Washington. These are not quality teams. The one quality win, on my recollection, that they did have is against the Rams, and they ran all over them. I don't recall if the Rams had Williams in the lineup. I don't know if he was hurt for that game, but that to me is the aberration. This team has had too many breakdowns. And I can't just distinguish this between home and away. I can't chalk it completely up to that. These are pros. You got to get out on the field and give it your best. And to say that, okay, we're mentally psyched out and we can't play on the road, that doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't think they're a quality football team. You can't let the Bills, you can't go into Buffalo and let a Bills team run all over you to the tune of 300 yards. And again, the point I will make is Green Bay was not in good health the entire year. I was on the Bears 5 weeks ago when they played the Lions. And one of the points I made before they started on a relatively positive close, I think they went 3-2, was that their guys had been out. They had a safety out, a couple corners out, and that makes a big difference. So I just think they're getting healthy. Jordan Love has been sacked only 30 times this year. He's getting rid of the football. He's making smart decisions. And to me, the guy seems cool as a cucumber. It looks like he's the kind of guy that has ice water in his veins. I'm going to side with the value here. 7.5 implies that the Cowboys have to win by double digits to cover this spread, and I don't think they're good enough to do it. I'm also going to go with Green Bay's team total over the 20.5.
All right. So Green Bay's team total, in addition, over 20.5. And Paul's answered my questions and much more. And we appreciate that. And again, that doesn't mean I disagree with Paul on his selection. It just means when I'm looking at this game, what I'm apprehensive about when it comes to siding with Dallas, not to say I won't. But again, as a counterpoint to Paul, you said their only real good win at home was against the Rams. They also defeated Detroit. And you could say what you will. They were lucky. That terrible call on the 2-point conversion. But be that as it may, they beat a quality team in Detroit. I don't know about, I want to say Philadelphia is a playoff team, but I don't know at this point if you want to consider that a quality win, but it was decisive, 33-13. Seattle
31, I believe it was 31-13. And at this point, I think we've all relegated Philly to the scrap heap. And they beat them at the end of the year when it had less relevance than beating them in the early part of the year when Philly was actually winning some football games.
Yeah, 33-13 was that final, to be exact. Yeah, and they covered easily as a 3.5-point favorite. The Seattle game, they win 41-35. Seattle's 9-8, but again, that was a game they were a 9.5-point favorite, and they failed to cover. So there was, as dominating as they were at home, there's some questionable decisions coming down the stretch at home. That Seattle game, for one, which was a 6-point game. Philadelphia, like we alluded to, they routed them at home, but Philadelphia right now can't get out of their own way, and they can't stop anybody. And the Detroit game, they barely got by 20-19. I don't know, Paul, for the life of me, I'm all for being aggressive in certain situations, especially on the road. I'm not sure what Dan Campbell was thinking after that penalty. And okay, it was a bad call, but why are you not kicking the extra point and trying to two from the 8-yard line to win it? I have no idea. That may have cost them a chance to be a number 2 seed when it was all said and done. But it's all done. It's all over with. Paul likes Green Bay plus the 7.5 against Dallas. Folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please take a second to do so. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no strings attached. There's no hidden agenda. You'll see a black subscribe button right underneath your video box, with the exception if you're watching on your PC, then you'll see a WC logo in the bottom right-hand corner of your video box. And just click on that. That'll get you subscribed. Like I said, absolutely free. And if you haven't done this already, if you're a subscriber, which we appreciate all of you, we're just short of 12,000 subscribers right now, folks. I'd like to thank all of you for all your continued support. And if you're new, take that one extra step. Go into your YouTube settings and click on the alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel. You'll be notified immediately upon any of our 6 broadcasts going up on a weekly basis. All right, let me get to my game, and it's the one between the Rams and the Lions. And this one was a little difficult for me to process this early in the week anyway, as it stands. And we'll get Paul's take on this game as well. But the Lions right now are a 3-point favorite, and the total in this game is 51.5. When I say difficult for me, the side was difficult for me to process. The total, I will have a premium selection on the Rams and Lions total. That will be up by Thursday. So you want to keep an eye on our website at gamblersworld.net for that. Let me take my best run at the side in this game. You got to factor in emotion, okay? And it's not the tell-all, be-all, but it is certainly a factor when it comes to playoff handicapping, and especially in this instance. This is a Detroit Lions organization that's not used to being in this spot, let alone winning a division and playing a home game in the postseason. So the crowd is going to be extremely juiced up. Now, because that occurs, we've seen that on several occasions over the years where, all the emotion sides with one team, the crowd is all juiced up. It does not assure a win. But look at a couple different factors for me here. Dan Campbell, since he's been with the Lions, has gone 4-0 straight up, and ATS is a favorite of 6 or less when the total is 49.5 or greater. And there's been a point differential for the Lions of plus 21.5 per contest during those 4 occasions. However, you might want to say, well, why did you add the total of 49.5 or greater? Because when the total gets that high, there's 2 contributing factors. Theobviously, the Lions defense hasn't been a stop unit that you can consider a shutdown defense. Even this year, they have they have their issues, okay? But the contributing factor on the 49.5 is he's done good in this situation when expected to win as a favorite of 6 or less, and 49.5 or greater. That also indicates the defense he's facing is not top caliber. Okay, so that's how I interpret that. With the Rams, they started 3-6. And all of a sudden, they came on like gangbusters, 7-1 in their last 8, with their only loss coming at Baltimore in overtime, 37-31. Last I checked, the Ravens are the number 1 seed in the AFC and one of the favorites to win it all this year. However, since 2021, 2022, all under Sean McVay, they're just 4-11 straight up as a road dog. Now, I mention that because the point spread is only 3 here. Okay, so, the chances of covering and only losing by 1 or 2, does it happen? Yes. Does it happen a lot? No. And under Dan Campbell, we're looking at a Detroit team, since he's taken over as their head coach, 8-4 against the spread as a home favorite, 7-2 as a home favorite of 7 or less, and 3-0 ATS is a home favorite of 3 or less, with an average victory margin of 17 points per game. And also, keep in mind, even in the early lean years with Dan Campbell, he's had his teams get better as the season progresses. And what I'm looking at right now in the month of January, okay, which is usually the last regular season game or games, Dan Campbell has gone 4-1 straight up in ATS as the Lions head coach in the month of January. I am not going to be emphatic with this. I am not going to put all my life savings on this. And at this particular juncture, I don't even know if I'm going to play the Lions on Sunday. I do know I won't play against the Lions on Sunday, but I'm going to have a very, very small lean at this particular juncture. Again, we're talking Tuesday. The game doesn't go to Sunday. Sunday night being 8:15 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. I'm going to go have a slight lean here, Paul, toward the Lions over the Rams.
All right. First of all, let me make a comment about Dan Campbell. Unfortunately, Dan Campbell, and he's an ex-Giant, and I'm a Giant fan, Dan Campbell's ego is going to get him in trouble. It got him in trouble on Sunday because the chances of him advancing to the number 2 seed were next to very slim and none, because they needed to rely on a loss by Dallas. And we know that the likelihood of that happening against Washington was almost nil. So he plays his starters. Laporta gets hurt. He may be out for Sunday. He's iffy. At one point, St. Brown came out of the game. they had at least 4 players come out of the game with injuries. They were banged up. That's ego. Just like it was ego to go for 2 when they got backed up by that penalty. Logic did not come into play. Neither did practicality, prudence, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we go into this game and the Lions are home. But which team is coming off the bye? The Rams are coming off a bye. You know why? Because they lost or beat the 49ers, I think, 21-20. It's irrelevant who won or lost because the game didn't mean anything, and they didn't play the starters. So they gave the guys rest that needed to be rested, specifically Williams at running back. The guy has been a bull at running back. He's just taken over, and he's given them a dimension that they did not have in the middle of the season when he sat out for, I think, 4 or 5 games. Now let's get to the Lions. Their defense is a fugazi. It's a fake. I know you rely on past statistics. I rely on present. I rely on the eye test. Let's look at the last 8 games. They've had one, count them, one defensive impressive performance. That was against the Broncos. They held them to 75 yards in the first half en route to a 42-17 win. Outside of that, what was it? 28 to New Orleans, 28 to Chicago. The Chargers went up and down the field. And before anybody tells me they were impressive against Dallas, holding them to 20 points, CD Lamb went off for 13 receptions for 227 yards. Now, Cam Sutton's back in the lineup, as is Gardner Johnson. It didn't make much of a difference on Sunday. Nick Mullins, again, after 2 weeks ago, throwing for 411 yards, having their team get undone by 4 interceptions and seeing him benched the next week, comes back in on Sunday, throws for 390, despite 3 offensive linemen being out. 2 of them were scratched. One of them during the game, he was replaced by a player that had not played 1 snap the entire year. So Nick Mullins was under constant duress, hit repeatedly, and they had a shot to actually cover the spread. Much to my chagrin, they didn't get it done. He threw an interception. They hit his arm as he threw the ball down by the 20-yard line, and it was lights out, and Detroit comes away with another very fortunate win. They are not a good defensive team. Their back end is, I'm not going to call it atrocious, but I'm going to call it well below average. Now you have to deal with Nakua. You have to deal with Cooper Kupp. You have to deal with Atwell. Fortunately for them, Tyler Higbee is out, so they don't have to deal with a tight end who they've been very weak against. Johnny Munt went off, replacing Hawkinson. I think he had about 60 yards of receptions. I think the Rams here are going to score points, and for the Lions to win this game, they are going to have to outscore them. Henceforth, if the Rams get to 24, 27 points, which I think will happen, this game should go over the total, and I would not be laying any points with the Lions. I actually took 3.5. I did, because it was too good to pass up.
All right, there you have it. That's Paul's take. I think I did mention, if I recall correctly, that Detroit's defense has had issues all year. So I pointed that out.
You did.
Secondly, the past results. When it comes to offensive and defensive statistics, I'm more inclined to look at what's happened in recent games in a trend of how an offense is trending or a defense is trending. In terms of a coach's straight up and ATS numbers at the same location, being Dan Campbell, being with Detroit. Those are things that I do consider, because I don't believe in team trends more than I believe in head coaching trends. To me, one goes hand in hand with the other, because I'm a firm believer, and I always have been. And this is an overused cliche, but teams take on the personality of their coach. And I do agree with you, Paul. I do agree that Dan Campbell, if he continues on this trek, his own arrogance and his own confidence is going to be his worst enemy. Now, what I witnessed when they went for two in that situation wasn't arrogance and confidence. It's a guy that gets overly emotional and lets his emotions get the best of him. To me, the way I interpreted it, Paul, there's 3 minutes left in the game. Yes, you already clinched the division, but you still had an outside chance of being the number 2 seed. You wouldn't have been in the predicament you were on Sunday where you needed Dallas to lose to Washington. You might have had, now I'm not saying they would have been the number 2 seed, but you could have put yourself in a better scenario than that. And yes, I think it was stupid to play all your starters, especially you have to be scoreboard watching. You have to look up. Okay, if you want to play your starters and there's nothing given in the NFL, somebody's got to be in your ears saying Dallas is up right now 21-3 and Washington's got less than 100 yards of total offense through 2 quarters. All right, let's start pulling guys out. Now, I'm not sure at what point of the game that Laporta got hurt, but again, that's, to me, that's arrogance, that's confidence, or that's extreme confidence, and that gets in the way. And with the emotional standpoint, and I got off track here, when they went for 2 from the 8-yard line, it was like he said, he was pissed off, and he's going to tell the referees, okay, you want to take that away from me? I'm going to go for 2 from the 8-yard line, and I'm going to stick it right up to you because I'm going to make it from the 8. Instead of looking out for the team's best interest, he let, in my opinion, his emotions get in the way. And as we well know, even as being handicappers, when emotion comes into the equation, when you get emotional about a pick or anything else when it comes into work, you let a bad loss carry over for a day or two. When emotions get involved, usually it prompts bad decisions. Anything more, Paul, and then we'll move on to closing up shop.
Yeah, I can defend Dan Campbell here on one count. Okay. The Dallas game was after his game, so he couldn't do any scoreboard washing. But still, I think you have to make an educated decision here. Dallas is a 13 and a half point favorite. They're probably going to win. Do I really want to play everybody here? Especially the stars, the guys we're going to need to get through a grueling playoff game, several games. And it's funny because Darryl Johnston of the Cowboys was doing the game. And he says, well, you got to play everybody. You can't sit anybody. And as soon as he said that, within a minute, they started to go down like flies. Now, we'll see if Laporta is in the game because they're going to need him. He is an important piece. I mean, you could make an argument that he's probably going to run in the top 5 for Rookie of the Year behind C.J. Stroud and Nakua. But I don't know if any of the other players will sit. But again, you made the point. It's emotionally driven. And, well, that's my opinion on the game. That's my opinion on Dan Campbell. And we'll see what happens. It should be an interesting one.
I'm glad you pointed that out about that was the late game being Detroit was playing early and Dallas was playing late. And usually in past years, if I'm not mistaken, when there's any team that's coincides with one result might affect the other standing, meaning the situation with Detroit and Dallas, they usually coincide and play them either in an early window or a late window. So one team doesn't have a distinct disadvantage in that regard in terms of who they play. Now, having said that,
what happened is in this regard, no matter what happened on the early games, because Philly was going late as well, I believe. Yeah. The Dallas game couldn't be relegated to meaningless. And I think that's what the NFL did 6, 7 years ago.
So why was Detroit not in the 425 window then? If they needed Dallas to lose and who else to lose? San Francisco. I can't remember, not San Francisco. who is the other team that they needed to lose? It was
They just needed Dallas to lose. But
okay.
even if
So
Detroit loses, Philly still has a shot to catch Dallas
I
if
had
Philly
no
wins.
problem with Dallas being in the 425 window for the reasons you just alluded to. I don't know why Detroit wouldn't be, because now you lose a key player or two because you're playing at 1 o'clock. And I'm sorry, Paul, calculated or not, it in the low expectancy rate of a double-digit underdog with a 4-12 record pulling off an upset in week 18. Yes, the probability is low, but we've seen double digits underdogs win. So to me, if I'm the coach, I got to play it that way because the NFL forced my hand. So I stand corrected on that. By the same token, I got to defend Dan Campbell then and say I would have done the same identical thing, because you can't assume one team's going to beat another. How much heat and criticism and scrutiny would have he been under? God forbid, if Detroit loses that game because they sat everybody, or won the game, or excuse me, loses that game because they sat everybody, and then Dallas gets upset in the 4 o'clock window. You have to weigh up the pros and the cons, I guess. And sure, it's easy to say after the fact, Laporta got hurt. How stupid! Why was he in the game? And we could second guess people to the cows come home.
True.
But as far as a calculated decision goes, I got to agree with him playing everybody because they put him in the early window, and he didn't know what the result was in the late window, or he didn't even have privy to say, how's Dallas doing right now, which I was touching upon and failed to realize they didn't play in the same window. So that's all I could say about
Absolutely
that.
true. Absolutely true. I'm saying different coaches would handle it different ways, and I think the way the playoffs are set up right now, in that you do not get a week off between the regular season and the playoffs, and maybe that's something they should consider moving forward, because I think that would alleviate a lot of these issues with who to play and who not to play. And even in the meaningless games, you might get more marquee players in there knowing that they have a week off. But that's an NFL decision, and that's got to factor into how a coach is going to play it out. So we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
I would say Detroit had an issue with the NFL and the refereeing in the loss against Dallas, and I would say that the NFL had a hand in what occurred in terms of player availability this week for Detroit by putting them in the early window, and when they were basing their decisions on we can't assume Dallas is going to win. So we'll have to come to that conclusion, and it's guys more powerful than us in the NFL are making those decisions, unfortunately. I think they'd be better suited to leaving it up to guys like us, to be quite frank with you. But in any event, Paul, it's been a great pleasure to have you on all year. You're going to appear again next week, and then we're going to discuss. You may not be back with us until the beginning of football season next year, which we would look forward to because you're not a big basketball guy. But there's still time for people to make a lot of money with you here in the NFL playoffs. And tell the folks a little bit about what you may have going on this coming weekend. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that is, and how you've been doing of late, or anything noteworthy that should be brought to their attention, and why they should spend their hard-earned money with you.
All right, I went 3-2 in the NFL on Sunday. It wasn't a great week. I really do like these playoff games. I really appreciate a couple of them, and I do like Green Bay. I gave you one of them. I'll have several up there. I'm not going to post every game because I don't like every game. And I only post what I play personally. That's just a rule I have. So as we get into the playoffs, I'm going to continue to be selective onto the Super Bowl. I feel confident that I'm going to win. I usually do. And look, we'll see how it plays out. And I look forward to being on here next week, next year. I've really enjoyed doing this, and you're a consummate pro. And let's win some money this week, Ross.
Yeah, let's do it, buddy. You'll be back with us next week. We'll be discussing, there'll be 4 games next week. Me and Paul will be discussing 2 of them in the divisional round. And we look forward to that with Paul Bovi. You could find me over at gamblersworld.net as well. And why would you want to spend your hard-earned money with me? Well, because since the site's inception, I've been number one since about week 2, which was mid-July. Since August 4th, I'm hitting 58% of my plays. My dime bettors are up over 45 grand. College basketball, 20-11 with my last 31. And also, if I got the record here in front of me, yep, 51-31 with my last 82, which is good for 62%. Since April 12th of 2023, going back to last season, my NBA 67-46, 58%. And my NBA sides during that exact time frame, 58-30, folks. That's not a made-up record. All my picks and my records are independently documented by not only gamblersworld.net, but everybody else where I post. And I post the same selections across the board everywhere and every place I'm at. So, again, you can find me at gamblersworld.net. By the way, I just got to put my star on my forehead for a second here, folks. I'm quite elated. I finished tied for first in Mark Lawrence's Wise Guy contest. Ironically enough, Sean likes the kid because the guy I finished tied for first with is Mark Lawrence. But I can assure you, folks, that's a very tight, very, very tight ship in the way that contest is run. And the best part about it is the two top guys, you can find them at gamblersworld.net. Cashed in last night with Michigan. And it's college football is over, but it's worth noting 13-8. I finished in the college football bowl season, including 5-1 with the championship game and my New Year's Day selections. Going back to last year, 26-12 with my college football bowl selection. So until the next time, for Paul Bovi, I'm Ross Benjamin. I will be back with you tomorrow morning with Jesse Schule and Sean Higgs. We'll be discussing college basketball. We'd like to wish each and every one of you a great day, folks. Take care and God bless.